right, I came across this little article. I think it's really interesting and hilarious. Oregon governor signs bill ending reading and math proficiency requirements for graduation because who needs reading and math proficiency? Come on, you're just being too hard on these kids. All right, we're going to have some fun with this one. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
All right, there's Oregon Governor Kate Brown. Let's see what she's been up to. Oregon Governor Kate Brown privately signed a bill last month ending the requirement for high school students to prove proficiency in reading, writing, and arithmetic? High school? Before graduation. I think they probably meant mathematics. I hope. I really do hope that they're not testing proficiency in arithmetic at the high school level. Brown, a Democrat, oh, there's a real shock, did not hold a public signing or issue a press release regarding the passing of Senate Bill 744. And the measure was not added into the state's legislative database until more than 2 weeks later, an unusually quiet approach to enacting legislation. Secretary of the Senate Lori Brocker's office is responsible for updating the legislative database, and a staffer tasked with dealing with the governor's office was experiencing medical issues during the 15-day time frame it took the database to be updated. Oh, give me a break. Oh, our staffer was out sick. Okay. Okay, so here's where you have to put on your boots. It's going to get deep. SB 744 gives us an opportunity to review our graduation requirements and make sure our assessments can truly assess all students' learning. So let me phrase this for you properly. A lot of our students are not doing well. Therefore, there's something wrong with the tests. That's what they're saying. To assess all of our students' learning, in other words, there are groups of students where these exams are not assessing them properly. And therefore, they're racist. You have to learn edu-speak, man. This is how they talk. And these are the most racist people around. You'll see. Charles Boyle, a spokesman for the governor, said in an email to the Washington Examiner, "In the meantime, it gives Oregon students and the education community a chance to regroup after a year and a half of disruption caused by the pandemic." So we're going to blame COVID. That's a strategy number 2 for the education world. The bill, which suspends the proficiency requirements for students for 3 years, has attracted controversy for at least temporarily suspending academic standards amid the COVID-19 pandemic. How many of you out there think that after 3 years they're going to bring these assessments back? Really? Okay, you hold on to that thought. Backers argued the existing proficiency levels for math and reading presented an unfair challenge for students who do not test well. Oh, we all know who they're talking about. And Boyle said the new standards for graduation would aid Oregon's. Oh, this is great. This is great. Now, you have to think about, let's say, Ramesh Patel. Okay, so Ramesh Patel, he is an Asian Indian, and he's got his wife and his kids do well in school because guess what? He's in their lives. You have a nuclear family. Ramesh Patel, like a lot of Asian Indians, don't take no shit from his kids, and his kids don't give him any shit because they've been raised properly. Furthermore, Ramesh Patel, he has goals for his kids, and he works hard to make sure that they scratch and crawl to do well in school because they're going to be engineers or doctors or things like that. And you might be thinking that I'm sort of clowning Ramesh. No, I absolutely believe this. Asian Indians have the best families. Their kids are disciplined. Both parents are in the kids' lives, and they set high goals for their kids. All right. So here's Ramesh Patel, and he's going to say, yeah, that's true. There are subgroups out there that really struggle on state tests. I'm glad that the Oregon Department of Education is finally doing something about this. Okay, so these new standards for graduation would aid Oregon's Black. And Ramesh is going, yeah, okay. They are struggling. Anything that we can do to help them. Latino, Latinx, and he's thinking, well, wait a minute. Doesn't Latinx also cover Latino? I thought that Latinx meant both Latino and Latina and any other kind of genders that they could come up with. Something wrong with the actual writing skills of this person. The indigenous, and Ramesh is going, yeah, the indigenous, we understand, they do struggle sometimes. A lot of them come from very poor families, and Asian. And Ramesh is like, what? Wait, hold on a minute here. The Oregon Department of Education is ceasing these tests because Asian students need this help. Right? The Asian students are kicking ass. They outperform everybody, but they're part of the people of color that getting rid of these standards is supposed to help. Okay, Pacific Islander, tribal. Well, wait, we already have indigenous, so tribal. Are there any tribes in this country that are not indigenous? Is that like a militia or something? And students of color. Well, wait, I thought the other kids in here were students of color, like black and Latino and Latinx. So what the hell they're doing here is they're stringing together as many of these ethnicities that they can do because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Of course, whites, they don't get listed here because who cares about them? Those kids don't matter to the Oregon Department of Education. And I'm telling you, that is not an exaggeration. They don't matter. This is Oregon. The requirement for students to demonstrate proficiency in essential subjects on a freshman to sophomore skill level in order to graduate was terminated at the start of the pandemic as part of Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order in March 2020. Democrats largely backed the executive order. Oh, there's a real shock. And argued in favor of SB 744's proposed expansion, saying the existing educational proficiency standards were flawed. The testing that we've been doing in the past doesn't tell us what we want to know. No, let me rephrase it for you. Okay, this is what he meant. The testing that we've been doing in the past doesn't tell us what we've been wanting to hear. The results have been disappointing. Democrat Sin Lou Frederick told a local ABC affiliate, we have been relying on tests that have been, frankly, very flawed. And they've been relying on these tests for 20 years, and yet they haven't fixed them. And I get it. They're national tests. They're purchased from a corporate entity, but they still have a lot of control over what those tests contain. They haven't fixed it, and they don't want to fix it. They want to have the excuse. If you rolled out a proficiency exam that took care of all of these things they're griping about, what do you think they would do to it? They would take it out to their backyard and dig a hole and bury it because they need the excuse. Because if you provide these state assessments and give them out to the students, what would you find? You'd probably find black students and Latino X and stuff and others performing poorly. Now, there are reasons for that. And the whole purpose of No Child Left Behind was to uncover the problems that we're having in our educational system so that we can help these kids. But they don't want to know what the problem is, because if they find out what the problem is, then they got to fix it. And that requires effort. So complaining about the problem is much, much more preferable. And he goes on, so that we aren't really helping the students or the teachers or the community. So what we'll do is just bury our head in the sand and pretend that everybody's performing well. They're not going to bring these tests back in 3 years. They've had 20-something years to get these tests fixed. They haven't done it. And all of a sudden now they're going to stop for 3 years and roll out some magical test that's going to take care of the problems. Now I know some of you are saying, well, we didn't have these state tests when I was a kid, and that's true. But the whole purpose of putting state tests in there was to uncover inequities and inadequacies in our educational programs. And so they do. And the response is, these can't be right. There must be something wrong with the test, so let's get rid of the test. And if you show up and say, well, here's a great test that doesn't have those problems, they probably shoot you on sight. I worry that by adopting this bill, we're giving up on our kids, House Republican leader Christine Drazan said on June 14th. You already have. They've already given up on your kids. Still, the measure received some bipartisan support, with State Representative Gordon Smith, a Republican, voting in favor of it. One person, it has received some bipartisan support. One dude. While some lawmakers argued against standardized testing for skill evaluation, the state of Oregon does not list any particular test as a requirement for earning a diploma, with the Department of Education saying only that students will need to successfully complete the credit requirements. Okay, so they require so many credits of math and English and all that kind of stuff. Demonstrate proficiency in the essential skills and meet the personalized learning requirements. Let me clue you educators in on something, okay? These personalized learning goals are a fraud. There is no way you can take a class of 30 students, create personalized learning goals for all 30 of them, and run that course. Not in high school. You have 100 and something students that you're teaching every semester, and you're going to set up personalized learning plans for each one of them? This is a fraud. There is no personalized learning requirements. Every kid in that class is going to get the same curriculum as every other kid. This was a fad about 15, 20 years ago. I said it at the time that it was not going to work. Teachers are already overworked. They are not going to go for this. And guess what? They don't. However, they just pretend that there's these personalized learning requirements in place. Nation's report card shows Oregon students falling behind in reading and math. However, Oregon's graduation rate climbs to 83%, a new high, but schools may have lowered the bar for a diploma. How bad is it? Since then, Oregon's fourth grade math and reading scores have slipped to be among the lowest in the nation. Only in 5 states did fourth graders perform worse in reading, and in 6 they performed worse in math. Holy cow, this is Oregon. This is not inner city. Oh, here's a section called Call to Action. In Oregon, fewer than 1/4 of 8th graders are proficient in math. Typically, at least 1/3 of Oregon's 8th graders are proficient in math, which means they can apply math skills and knowledge to real-world contexts and to problem solving. That's a massive drop. Oh, and here we go. The NAEP results are a continued call to action for Oregon. Dan Farley, Research and Accountability Administrator at the state's Education Department, wrote in a statement, well, guess what, Dan? You're not going to get any action. All right. Nation's report card shows Oregon students falling behind in reading and math. So, gee, I wonder if there's a problem in Oregon's education programs. Well, I'm from Oklahoma, don't care. If the Oregon Department of Education continues on this path, it only helps my Oklahoma kids have a better chance of getting good jobs. So, I'm all for it. Good work, Governor Brown. Like my video, subscribe to my channel.